Hello and welcome to Bible FPL, a review of Game Week 11, a look ahead to Game Week 12. We'll get on to how the team did in a minute, but as you'll see in the title, 37k in the world. It's doing very nicely. The Bible FPL team in particular, the main team's struggling a bit more. But yeah, we'll get into the teams, we'll get into the short Bible talk, we'll get into fixtures and planning and all that sort of stuff in the most concise, helpful ways possible. Firstly, this is no dig at all, by the way, at Gianni, but I just found this so funny. Literally, about a week before the international break, Gianni put up a video so basically saying there's never many international break injuries. Like, don't make, hold your transfers based on the fears around the international break. Like, there's barely ever any injuries over the international break, so stop worrying, make your transfers and get on with it. And then bang, it was all yellow, as you can see, just player after player after player getting absolutely creamed with injuries. It just made me laugh. I was just like, as soon as Yanni said this, the writing was on the wall that it was going to be an absolute slaughter fest of injuries over the international break. And yeah, there we have it. I mean, some of you, most of you, in fact, is going to be looking at your teams this week with flags left, right, and centre. I think the most prominent one, which a lot of you would have heard about, is Gabriel. Most of us have him. It's come out in the last few hours, at least when I'm recording this, that he's going to be out for 1 month to 2 months, and most likely anyway from the initial examination. So Gabriel is looking like a sell. I'll give you some suggestions as to who you could buy in a minute. Another big injury one that people talk about, Semenyo. It seems as if this is the reason why the lad had to leave Ghana early. He had a proposal lined up. So let's wait and see more info on him. But it may be that his ankle sprain wasn't quite as bad as we were thinking. Maybe it was more a cover up for releasing him to go and propose to his future wife. But we will wait and see, won't we? But my gut tells me Semenyo at the very worst isn't going to be out for long. But I think Gabriel's the one we know is going to be bad. And as for some of these other flags, like I think a lot of these players probably be fine. Like Enzo, my guess is he's going to be fine. Calafiori sounds fine. And Gay was on crutches, so he's in our Bible FPL team, so we're going to have to look at what to do with Gay potentially. But yeah, I think wait until the presses. Don't make any early transfers this week. My last video, I did a video all about, what would you regret more? And essentially, I think at this stage, like, don't make early transfers because it's going to bother you more if you make an early transfer and then some news just changes everything. Like with my team, if Semenyo is out, it changes my transfer plans entirely. So don't go early on these sort of things. Ask yourself, what am I gonna regret more? If there's gonna be some price rises and stuff, if it's gonna bother you more if you miss a price rise, obviously go for it and take the risk. But yeah, Gabriel's the main one I think for most of us that we're gonna have to look at. And in terms of replacements for him, so I'd argue. So I put together a little wildcard draft again. I may have stuck that in the title. Who knows? Um, I'd say this is the best for like sort of defensive players you can have in the game right now. Donnarumma is coming into an outrageous fixture run for City, and they are keeping clean sheets with Donnarumma. He's a great penalty saver. He's going to get some penalty saves this season. Donnarumma, I think, is a lovely set for getting goal for the next however many weeks, probably right through the Christmas period. Because of the Gabriel injury, I think Virgil is a very nice replacement for him. If you're not on wild card, uh, bit of a DEFCON daddy, three plum fixtures in a row, followed by some other nice fixtures. He'll be great over the Christmas period. Nailed on his houses, bit of goal threat. He'll tick over nicely over the Christmas period. Because Gabriel's out, I think you still want some Arsenal defensive coverage. Timber's the most obvious one, and I think he's in a lot of teams already. And then Munoz, what a player, attacking threat, clean sheet potential, bit of defcon. Fixtures are okay there for Palace. Well, they're very nice actually over the initial run. They get a bit harder, but it's overall again a player you can just set and forget. Like over this Christmas period, who's also good for minutes. So I love the idea of this backline, and if I can get to it myself, I'd be very happy. And it's funny as I'm talking you through this backline, I'm thinking, hang on a minute, because my current transfer plans aren't aligned with these two lads, but I really like what they offer in terms of the security. So I'm gonna have a think with my team in terms of this like wildcard draft. Foden's a bit of a differential punt to attack those just juicy fixtures for City, and the fact he's coming in some good form now. So I think he's a lovely differential to get on wild card. Sarr still has nice fixtures, playing really well for Palace. Been very unlucky not to haul lately. Semenyo, assuming it's just a proposal why he's out or why he came home from Ghana. Lovely fixture on it, haven't they? And particularly home to West Ham this week. He's got to be in there. And Burmo's playing so well at the moment. I'm still a bit salty. I don't own the guy, to be honest. But if you're on wildcard or looking to make a transfer this week, or if Semenyo is out, then Burmo I think is right up there in terms of the players to get before AFCON. You've still got enough weeks to make the most in before AFCON, because these fixtures are lovely. Bruno Fernandes, I've got in my main team, and I think he's equally as good in terms of he offers a few different routes to points. But Mbeumo's the informed guy at the moment. Mateta up front. I mean, this front three, I think, are just a prime front three at the moment. If you can get to them, all on pens, all good for minutes, decent fixtures for all of them. It's just like, yeah, this team, I love the look at of basically. And then there's just a cheap bench to enable things. Onana, as a cheeky little, what's the word, kind of first bencher. He's playing every game for Villa, and he's like 4.8 mil, bit of defcon, bit of goal threat. I'd quite happily have him there first bench to come on when I need him. Same with Twanzebe at 3.9. He's playing every game for Burnley. Dubravka, obviously, we know is a good keeper option. And then I've got a 3.8 in there for the money I have. That it's okay for your third bench to not play if you've already played your bench boost. So there's a wildcard team. Um, in terms of fixtures, so I mean, this is kind of linked to the wild card. I've kind of already been through this, but Liverpool's fixtures and City's fixtures in particular are turning very good very quickly, which is why we only got one Liverpool player because it's so hard to pin down the others. But that's why I've gone triple City. And United's fixtures are beautiful as well, hence why Brian and Burmo's in there. They're some of the main fixture swings right now. And then Palace still have some good games, hence why they've got a few players in there. And then you got, yeah, obviously Bournemouth with Semenyo. It's why you can't really sell the guy. And Arsenal's fixtures are all pretty decent, hence why you want some, at very least, defensive coverage in there. So that's the wildcard team. Sorry, I'm very banged up. I'm doing my best. In terms of the points then for the team this week, so in terms of the Bible FPL team, 66 points. Delighted again. Thiago is one of our transfers in this week. We even had Doku put points on the bench, and he still got a very good game week rank, an incredible overall rank. Um, we're very happy. Like even just the jam of Dorgu coming in for an injured Gay, and obviously United conceded twice, but Dorgu got hooked just before they conceded. The captain Saka was a lovely choice. It's all looking good for the Bible FPL team right now, and maybe God is honouring this series and trying to share some of the gospel with you guys, which is what we'll come on to now without wasting any more time. So we are actually going to go over one of the goals that Thiago scored. Now we're clutching at straws for how we use Thiago as a fancy sort of Bible inspired pick, but his last letter of his name is O, and the first letter of his name is T. Put them together, O T, Old Testament. He can be our rogue any book of the Old Testament option, and he scored in the 78th and 90 plus 6 minutes. And we're going to read from Psalm 78. It's an Old Testament book, chapter 78. I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'll be very brief with this one, but essentially, the psalm is largely about how God's people were constantly messing up and how God was constantly being faithful in being gracious and merciful and forgiving towards them. Time and time again, it says, look, yeah, he was merciful, he forgave their iniquities, he didn't destroy them. Time and time again, he restrained his anger, he didn't stir up his full wrath, he remembered that they were flesh and, they were basically weak and prone to sin and doing the wrong thing. And basically, God was gracious over and over again. And I think a lot of people have this mindset of God as this very brutal God in the Old Testament where lots of people were wiped out and there was lots of wars and stuff. But actually, if you read the whole Bible and you get a full picture as to who God is, you can see that God is gracious time and time and time again. He's a God of multiple second chances. And you need to understand that biblically speaking, this is the wages of sin in God's eyes. The wages of sin is death. Romans 6:23 says that God is a perfect God. His standards are perfect. He is perfection in all of his ways. And therefore anyone falling short of perfection is not good enough to be holy in God's eyes, which sounds unfair, but it's not unfair if you realize and appreciate that God is a God of perfection and that we are just far from perfect. We constantly do the wrong things, have sinful thoughts, sinful actions, all the time, day after day, minute after minute. And because of that, when you look through that lens of, hang on a minute, like we're way short of God's standard. If in fact, if anything, this verse says the wages of our sin deserve death. The fact that God spares his people when they do the wrong thing time and time and time again when they haven't deserved that, and obviously Jesus in the New Testament coming into the earth to die on the cross to forgive us from our sins out of pure grace and love, it flips your whole mindset in terms of actually how kind God is towards us and how just constantly merciful he is and how many second chances he just gives us. Like he could just wipe out the whole world in seconds right now if he wanted to because of how much of a mess we're in. And yet he's still allowing the world to function. He's still allowing people, to kind of do their thing in life. And for those that put their faith in Jesus, they can know forgiveness. And those who haven't put their faith in Jesus yet, God is giving them chances to still live life and to still turn to Him before it's too late. And my encouragement to you, if you're watching this, is it's not too late if you haven't turned to Jesus already. You can find His grace, you can find His forgiveness, you can be made right with God, and you can have a guarantee of eternity in heaven in a place that is free from suffering and free from the mess of this world. And that's the encouragement I wanted to bring you today. So please comment if you have any questions about that. I'd love to help you on your journey of faith. Um, Moving on a bit further with the FPL stuff, the main team. In fact, we'll go to the main team in a minute. In terms of transfer plans for the Bible team, like my gut is Gay is probably the main one we need to worry about because he was on crutches or something. Um, so we are limited in terms of defenders we can bring in this week that are Christian and tick the box in terms of players that would be mind being in the series. So our most likely, I think, transfer this week, if Gay's out, is probably going to be a Calvin Bassey for Fulham because they're home to Sunderland, and that'll be a really nice entry point for Bassey to do a job for us this week. And maybe we can then reassess in a couple of weeks once he gets to the City fixture as to how we can get to a defence that looks a bit more solid again. Maybe get to a Munoz for Palace, who's declared faith. Something like that is what I'm thinking. So we'll see what the press news says, but we potentially earmarked a Gay to Bassey transfer. Hopefully, give us some points this week from Bassey. I just think with Dorgo, I'd happily play him against Everton, but I don't know if he's going to start or not. His minutes have been so intermittent. But other than that, team's looking strong. I'm hoping Enzo and Spain are fine. And I think we'll be captaining the robot Haaland. He just scored twice in Italy against one of the most difficult defensive teams, sort of historically. Like he's bullying everyone at the moment, so it wouldn't surprise me if he bullied Newcastle even at St James's. And they're struggling for form at the moment defensively. They're struggling a bit for injuries. Dan Burn suspended. I think Haaland is going to do the business. And when you're at the rank of 37k, you kind of don't need to take chances. And again, back to my last video, what am I going to regret more this week? I think on the Bible FPL team, I'll regret it more if I go against Haaland and his massive ownership in a game where I think he could actually do quite well. I'm tempted by Saka, but I feel like we reaped the rewards of Saka last week. Let's not be greedy in doing it again. Let's just stick to the robot Haaland. And a lot are going to back against him this week, including me on the main team, which scored 31 points last week. Pretty horrible week, to be honest. Fernandez transferring was the only one I think that returned, other than a Munoz clean sheet. Bowen captain was so unlucky not to get a return. It was just a grim week, and you kind of it's one of those in terms of this team. I just had to take what I got and think let's move on to the next game week after the international break. Um, and for my team, I think there's a couple of options, right? This is where FPL.team is so useful because I can still stick to my initial plan where I can do Pope to Allison, although like I said to you, the Virgil Donnarumma thing is tempting. But I could, in theory, do bring in Allison Becker this week for exact funds I'll have in the bank. Then next week I can get rid of the Gabriel problem. Ruben Dias's minutes have been the most reliable for City defensively as a defensive player. So I'm bringing Ruben Dias, and that'd obviously be starting for that plum fixture run leads onwards. And then if I wanted to, so excuse me, that would be game week 13. Then game week 14, I would have pretty much exact money in the bank if I wanted to cover some of that Liverpool attacking threat with a Szoboszlai. I have zero point 0.1 as it stands, but if there's a price rise, it might be like just about enough. And then I could have a bit of a Liverpool attacking coverage for some of those nicer games, including the home to Sunderland entry point, which is kind of, a perfect entry point without missing too many of their good fixtures. So that's the current sort of safe plan. The rogue, like, I just want to get in players that I'm really thinking are going to do well on this run would be let's try and take some hits to get in Burmo or Foden. And maybe we go for the just Gabriel to Virgil route this week. Maybe next week we bring in Thiago for Bowen to have the home to Burnley fixture. And we use some of the funds to spread out elsewhere to get in the likes of Burno. There's a few sort of rash plans I could make. But again, this is where the last video I did talked all about this. What am I going to regret more? And come the deadline, I'm going to properly ask myself that question in order to help land on a decision. And if the answer is actually going against this plan is going to bother me more, if it ends up going terribly, I'm just going to stick to the plan. However, if I conclude that missing out on more of Mbeumo's points and missing out on the reliability of Virgil and Donnarumma over the Christmas period and all of that's going to bother me more, I might change my plans. So that's how I'll be making my decisions this week. But there's some of the options I'm thinking about. I'll leave the video there before it's too long. But yeah, please do like and subscribe if you found this video interesting, helpful, a bit different. Do comment if you have any questions about the Christian faith or anything else. I'd love to get back to you and help you on your journeys. But for now, yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the last few days of this international break before we get into a really nice run of sort of Premier League football over the Christmas period. And yeah, I'll see you guys very soon.